Hello and welcome to the Lost Pines Workshop. I'm JC Jensen. So here we are, Build a Classic Dresser, episode 10, final preparations of the case. So we're going to take a look at, we've got all of our drawer dividers installed, and we've got to make sure that they are 100% perfectly square before we start building the cases or the drawers that are going to fit in a hole. So we'll investigate that. And then we're going to take our plane and we're going to plane off our joinery here where the pins are sticking up. We haven't done that yet. So we'll clean off the bottom. We'll flip it over to the top and go from there. Let's take a look. All right, a little square, checking for square trick. All right, so I'm just making some final tweaks and polishing, I'll say. Before I start making the drawer faces. I want to make sure that this opening is perfectly square, right? So rather than trying to do the tape measure pull and get it all perfect, take a stick, put a finish nail in it, like so. Set the finish nail down in one corner and then rotate it up. Make a little tick mark or use a marking knife, whatever works for you, a pencil, and make a mark. Then you can simply slide it over to the opposite corner where it's going to sit perfectly in the corner, rotate it over, and verify that you are square or not. If you're not, you're slightly off, adjust it where necessary, and check it again. But using a stick method like this is much more accurate than trying to use a tape measure to figure out, is my box square? Right on? Cool. So now with all the drawer dividers fully installed, and I've double checked square of every single hole where a drawer is going to fit, and I've made them absolutely perfect. I'm now going to flatten the bottom where we did our dovetail joinery for the case itself, and the lamination here that I did on this front face, if you'll remember. I'm going to just simply take my plane and completely flatten this bottom so it will receive the base, and everything will go together nice and square, nice and flat. I've already tuned up my plane and the plane blades nice and sharp. Take my wax and squiggle it on the bottom here, just to help smooth things along. And I'm going to start with any of the pins that may be sticking up. I'm just going to clean those off. I'll go to the other end and do the same thing, and then I'll work the entire surface. Looks something like this. And I've got a medium, I'll call it a medium depth of cut to start with. You see, it's fairly thin, but it's kind of heavy. You can't see through it. So that's kind of a medium cut. It's not a finished cut. And I'll just stick with that until I achieve the relative flatness that I'm looking for, and then I'll back the blade off and smooth it out. This part will never be seen, but you know, if we're going to do something right, might as well do it right. And this is a big piece, so I'm going to be here a while. You'll notice I'm going into the board and not trying to plane it out this way. If I run my plane this direction, it's going to want to tear all of this end grain. It's going to tear this off of the exterior. So I'm being careful to go whoop with it. Okay, so now I've got all of the all these pins leveled out on, or evened out on both sides, and I have started to plane the surface. Well, a quick note. So as I mentioned before, when I was trimming the pins, I came in from the outside in, so I didn't split off this edge, right? We don't want to push it off or break it off. Well, now I'm going and I'm working with the grain as I flatten this out, and I want to go all the way through. Well, in order to prevent that tear out, I just took my block plane and lightly chamfered this edge, this corner right here on the corner. Just chamfer that down a bit, just a little tiny bit. That way, as the plane comes across, it's actually skipping that very end grain on the very edge, so it won't tear it out. Groovy? All right. Planing continues. All right, so now we're moving on to the base construction, and I've taken the frame, the bottom frame that we previously built or constructed, and I have simply clamped it in place. It is slightly oversized or slightly larger than the cabinet, which is perfect. So now I can, after I attach it, I can plane it down so that it's a perfect blend all the way around, nice and flush all on three sides. In the back, I like to let the cabinet back overhang this slightly so it kind of hides it, because there won't be any trim or anything to cover it on the back. So we'll let it inset slightly, and I'll show you that when we flip it back around before we actually attach our base. Okay, so I've got it clamped in place. It's all ready to go. I'm going back. We're going to use the kind of the same technique that we did for our drawer slides. We're going to put in some slotted holes so that the case can expand and contract without restriction. But along the front edge, using my countersink bit, I'm going to go ahead and drill for regular wood screws. So this will be solidly secured along the front edge. I used 5 screws. There's no magic number. All right, I went in 2 inches from the outside so that I'm drilling into the bottom panel and not this end grain of the side. So I came in 2 inches, I went to the center, and then I split it in half. Magic number 5. All right, so there's that. Okay, so I have screwed this on as we discussed. I'm taking my low angle block plane and I'm going to plane the frame, the base frame, flush with the front of the case. All right, there we go. So it's nice and flush all the way across. That way, after I finish cutting this out and I attach it on here, there'll be no gaps here. It'll be nice and flat, flush, and tight. Groovy? Groovy. All right, so I removed it, the frame, and if you'll remember, I said, where's the front? All right, so I marked it as front before I took it off, so I know exactly where that is. I went to the back side and elongated the holes on the back side, on the 2 sides and along the back edge, noting the direction here. This is the direction of our movement. That's the direction that I slotted those holes, so that expansion and contraction of the case can move along this axis. Right on. Now I'll just simply put this back on and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now we've got the base frame is attached, and I thought I was ready to go ahead and cut the pattern out for the base itself, or the front and the 2 sides. However, I'm not quite ready yet, or I should say the wood's not ready yet. This is still moving. I milled this down, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, and it's still moving a little bit. So I'm going to let it continue to relax, and we got something else we can do in the meantime. So I'm going to let this relax for a few more days before I cut into it anymore, because I don't want any bend or twist. I want to get all of that out of it before I put it in. All right, so we've got one more thing that we need to do, and I can do while I'm waiting on this guy to finish. I could put the top frame on, put the top on, but I'm going to wait on the top until like dead last. That way I don't ding it up as I move this piece around as needed. So what do we need to do? Well, we split these drawers, or this top drawer, into 2, and it has a rail runner on each side. So we need a center one. So we're going to make this up. If you'll remember, we cut a groove in the back of our drawer dividers. I did the same groove vertically in this divider. So I have a groove here, so I'm going to make a tongue and groove fit and run a center divider, again with a maple runner on the bottom. So we'll have a drawer slide through the center to support the inside. All right, so let's see how that looks. Okay, so here's what I've done. Took some scrap maple and milled it down to 1/4 of an inch thickness, which is the same thickness as half of our drawer divider. And it's running full length right now. And I cut this one, I cut it 4.5 inches wide. And then I've taken another piece of one of our cutoffs from maple. That's why I don't get rid of any of it. And what I've done here is outlined a tenon. I think you can see my lines here. So I've outlined a tenon. I've left it long, and we're only putting a tenon on one end. That tenon will slide into the back of our upright drawer divider, and it will rest on the back, on top of the back drawer divider, with this piece attached to it. Something like that. All right, so to cut this tenon, I'm simply gonna, rather than going through and setting up all my router and going through all that business again, I'm simply gonna take this over to the bandsaw, rough cut it out, clean it up with my chisel, cut it to length, cut the bottom runner to length, and then we'll put that together. Square it. All right, so I've got it stuck in there. Got it squared to the back. Take my pencil and just scribe the length across the back. Okay, so now I've got the vertical rail cut to length. I've got the bottom runner cut to length. I'm simply going to plane the two faces real quick just to clean any of the tool marks from the planer off. So it's nice and smooth and slick as a runner for the drawers. Just a few light passes, a little bump right there, like that. I'll flip it over. Come on. That's too much right there. Same thing on this side. A little more. Silky smooth. Okay, so now what I've done is taken the two pieces, I flushed this up on the front edge and squared it up and just simply clamped it on. This isn't ideal, but for the video, this will work. All right, so I'm simply going to put countersink 3 screws in here. Hopefully I'll hit the center because I didn't mark it. One there. One back here in the back. And then the center. So swap this out. My screwdriver. Down to, let's go with 11. Okay, for this, I'm just using 1-inch wood screws. Simply run that down there. That one needs a smidge more. There you go. Don't want anything sticking out. All right, so there's our piece. Okay, so here's how it sits. Simply slides in the back, the vertical divider. Sits down, it's nice and flush here. We've got some wobble because we haven't secured it in the back yet. So back here in the back, we'll square it up. I'll clamp it in place, and then I'm going to drill a hole through the bottom to secure the top rail to the back drawer divider. And then I'm also going to slot this back screw to allow any wood movement of this guy. If it expands back, it allows this whole piece to slide back as well, accounting for, again, for that front to back wood movement, locking in the front, allowing the movement to come back. So after I get the hole drilled, I'll simply apply glue to just this front tenon, and that will get glued in and screwed back here in the back. And then that guy's ready to go. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this episode. We got a lot accomplished. When we come back, we'll go ahead and we'll cut these with the pattern. I'm going to dovetail the joinery for the base, and I'll show you what I'm doing with that. That's going to be half blind dovetails again. So when we come back, we'll knock that out and we'll get that installed, and then we'll be ready, I think, to start building some drawers. Have a great week. See you down the road.